Well, welcome along to the Sporting Life Timeform weekend preview. David Odd back in the hot seat, very hot after Ben Linfoot was here last week, joined by the great man himself and Matt Brocklebank to look ahead to, Ben, I think probably the best Saturday of action of the whole racing year.
Not quite, Dave, not quite, but it is much better than it used to be, isn't it? When you think of 2 Saturdays before Cheltenham in the past, we've now got a Morebattle Hurdle that's moved from midweek. It's moved from a conditions race to a handicap, a valuable handicap, with a big bonus for Cheltenham, and it's attracting those pot hunting trainers. So it's much better now than it used to be in the past.
That's a very fair point. We need to talk about this Bet365 Morebattle Hurdle. Ed Chamberlain, the ITV cameras, heading there this week. And Matt, we're going to get the Timeform ratings up on screen to start with. As Ben said, this is so much more competitive than it has been before. This is a really good renewal.
Really good, yeah. I think we've got a real buzz horse in here as well, haven't we, with McTeague, trainer pictured there, Emmett Mullins, as shrewd as they come seemingly, owned by Paul Byrne. They won the race a couple of years ago with the Shunter, who went on to complete the bonus. So, as Scoop said, they're all pot hunting. A lot of these are entered up at the Cheltenham Festival as well, a decent chunk to those winner of this race that can go on and follow up in any race at the Cheltenham Festival. And McTeague, interesting one. He's a 4-year-old. He doesn't do things by the book, does he, Emmett? He's a 4-year-old. He's in the Triumph Hurdle. He's in a couple of the handicaps as well, including the 4-year-old hurdle at the Cheltenham Festival, the Boodles Fred Winter, and he's already top weight in that race. So if he were to win this weekend, he wouldn't get any sort of penalty for that. So it could be a real shrewd piece of placement.
After the Boodles bangers, we always think of Martin Piper, the Imperial Cup bonus years ago. The trainers do get attracted to these, don't they? And owners quite rightly as well.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really good initiative by the courses who do it close to the Cheltenham Festival, because if you think when you're getting that close to Cheltenham, you don't really want to run a horse, but if you dangle a 6-figure carrot in front of your nose, then it's more incentive, isn't it? And that's why we've got such a good race. And Emmett Mullins, he's done it before with the Shunter. Could he do it again?
So have a look at how this race is going to play out. We've got the Timeform pace map for the Morebattle Hurdle. And Matt, when you look at that graphic there, the first thing that strikes you is plenty of front runners.
Yeah, you've got a big field, which is really, really good. You've got There Is No Doubt, the keen-going Lebowski. Interesting horse, him, quite lightly raced. He really does like to get on with it. He's a Jekyll and Hyde. If he turns up in his best form, he could be interesting. Benson likes to get on with it. He was a winner last time out when he made all El Muchacho.
I think we got there in the end.
Have you tipped all 3 of those, or just having one of them?
Teddy Blue, he's got some fantastic form, really strong form. He was 3rd in the Betfair Hurdle behind Orkin Risk and Emmett Mullins trained Farley Bay last time out. He's probably not going to be far off the pace as well. Should set up nicely. It's a sharp enough 2 miles round there. There's a steep-ish incline towards the finish. It could end up riding more like a sort of 2.5 mile handicap than a 2-mile race, because what's the ground at the minute? Good to soft in places, but maybe tightening up into the weekend with a dry forecast.
Now you're going to find out why I failed my French GCSE and get nothing that I asked for in a French restaurant. But we've got some video form. The horse we're interested in here is Le de Soud for the Dan Skelton team. He's in action here at Kempton. Tell us which one he is and tell us about the performance.
Yeah, he is the horse that is in the Sir Alex Ferguson colours with the blue cap just coming there on the outside, the grey horse there. And he travelled really nicely into this race. He's a lightly raced horse, and he's the perfect profile for this sort of race. You know, Dan Skelton, he's targeting a big pot, isn't he, with one of his most progressive horses. No surprise to see him line up Le de Soud here. He just got outrun in the closing stages by No Ordinary Joe in this contest, but you can see him taking another step forward, absolutely. The one sticking point is the ground. It was soft this day. He's a horse that's got a bit of a knee action. He's by Lord de Soud, whose progeny all go on heavy ground. And I just wonder, with the drying conditions, if that's going to be against him. But that's tempered by his highly progressive profile and the fact that Dan Skelton would have had a large pool of horses to pick from for this race. So he's undoubtedly a player.
Selection time. So really, really interesting rates. Matt, I'm presuming you're not with a favourite. You're not with McTeague. What are you putting up?
No, I'm going to take him on. There's a few to consider at big prices. I don't mind Lebowski. If he turned up with his best behaviour, he'd be interesting. I've ended with Clear White Light. Now he's a late maturing Dubawi. We all love them, don't we? He's 7 years old now, but he's only had the 4 starts for his current yard. Adrian Keatley looks to have found some improvement in him. They've added headgear this weekend. First time blinkers go on. That could help out a little bit as well. I think the really important thing with him is that firstly, he likes decent ground. Hopefully it'll end up being okay. He's not a big horse like a lot of Dubai's. He's quite a small horse. And he actually carried 12 stone last time out at Newcastle when he was giving the thick end of 2 stone to the runner-up. And I thought he toughed it out really, really well that day. And he might just benefit from going into a better race, racing under a lower weight. So he sneaks in here under a really handy weight. Clear White Light he's got an improving profile. He's not a flashy horse. He's not done it in this sort of race at all yet. But I think he could thrive. He stays 2.5 as well. So I think he might get a race run to suit.
Where does the Linfoot vote go?
Well, the question for punters is, are you with or against McTeague? And he is.
What sort of price is McTeague going to be? Do you give us a?
Well, he's around 7-2 and tightening at the minute, and I think he could go off shorter than that, maybe 3-1, 11-4 type price. And you can see why. I mean, he's got the £10 weight for age allowance. His graded form in France looks very good, but he did bomb out behind Lossiemouth last time. And just with that in mind, in what is a really competitive handicap race, I'd rather take one against him each way than dive in with McTeague at around 4-1, 7-2. So I'm going against him with Collingham for the Donald McCain Yard. Progressive horse, won a couple of times this season, including at Wetherby, a left-handed track. I don't think he's got any problems going this way around, although his best form came at Musselburgh last time out when he was eased into the race by £10 claimer Charlie Maggs. And I do think that this jockey is going to be pretty useful for his £10 claim. You've got to get on them early. He's only had the one winner, it was on this horse, but I loved the ride he gave him. Eased him into the race, didn't go for the whip until the last 50 yards, and he's only gone up £4 a horse for that win. So I think he's a fair price at 14-1.
Let's have a gallop through the Newbury feature now. The Greatwood Gold Cup, lively ground likely in Berkshire for this one. We've got the time form ratings for the Greatwood Gold Cup. They're going to appear on screen shortly. Paint the Dream is top rated, Matt, 167. And I've got you down to top at Paint the Dream and Lord Baddesley, if you would be so kind.
Yeah, well, they are 2 of the 4 course winners they've got in this race. It's a bit of a course specialist. Paint the Dream, he's actually had 3 starts of offences at Newbury. He's won all 3 by an aggregate distance of 36.5 lengths. He absolutely loves the place, and we've seen it with other horses. Zanza as well, another one we're going to come to. And Paint the Dream wasn't totally disgraced, I didn't think, in the Grade 2. The Silviniaco Conti last time out, that was at Kempton Park. Obvious issue really is that he's running off a pretty chunky mark. He's got a defy 158. He did win off 154 here at Newbury at the start of the season. It wasn't quite as strong a race as this. I don't think the opposition's pretty decent here, but he's got his chance. He's fairly obvious. He's about 3-1.
Ben, I'm going to ask you about Zanza now. I forgot my glasses and I couldn't see on that screen. I think it was a time form squiggle next to Zanza's.
It was a squiggle, Dave, and it's well deserved because this horse does have his own ideas about the game, but not at Newbury. Newbury is where he comes alive. He's won at this track 4 times, including twice this season. He's looked much more straightforward since the blinkers have gone on, I must have to say. So maybe the time form handicappers will be thinking of removing that squiggle if he puts in another good performance this weekend. I think you have to say he will do, given it's at Newbury. I mean, he beat De Machine 12 lengths in November, over 2 miles 6. He went up in trip last time and won the Denman Chase, beating Hitman 7 lengths. I think that race sort of fell into his lap a little bit. The shorter price horses underperformed that day, but he's undoubtedly a Newbury specialist, and you can see him going really well.
Now, you wouldn't have asked me to ask you about the best of the outsiders if you didn't have one up your sleeve.
Do you know what, Dave? I have got one up my sleeve, and it's Espoir de Guy for Paul Nicholls, formerly trained by Venetia Williams. Now, Paul Nicholls has a tremendous record in this race. I think he's won it 12 times, something like that.
It's 10 at least.
It's 10 at least. It's double
Probably
figures.
11, I'm thinking now.
It's double figures. We'll have to check it, but a tremendous record. And it's just interesting that this horse has found its way to Ditchy. You could say that perhaps he wants the ground softer. We know that they haven't been able to water at Newbury throughout the winter, and it's going to be good ground again there this weekend. He might have to prove himself on those sort of conditions, but he's undoubtedly well handicapped on his old form. Paul Nicholls, we know what he can do with horses from other yards, even a really good yard like Venetia Williams, and he's getting the best part of a stone. Well, he's getting a stone from the market principles as well. So lots in his favour, double figure prices. He's an interesting one.
Is he the selection?
No, he's not actually.
After such a convincing case as well.
I'm not having a bet in this race.
Fair enough. Matt, have you got a selection for us?
Yeah, I would mention the Big Bite, who seems to have lost his way. He's a good chunk lower. He was placed in this race in 2021. He's been given a real chance by the handicapper. If they've managed to get him right between the ears, he could run well. My selection would probably be Lord Baddesley. We just briefly mentioned him earlier. Chris Gordon, obviously local trainer, had his big day with Ork and Risk in the Betfair Hurdle at this course just a few weeks ago. And this Lord Baddesley's got winning form as well, and he was a close fourth in last year's Betfair Hurdle. Previously, he hadn't quite been seeing out the 2.5 miles distance, but I saw enough last time at Plumpton. He made all. That's an important one, I think, in this race. There's not a huge amount of pace pressure on him. I suspect he might get his own way out in front. Like I say, likes the place, likes good ground, and he's a thriving horse. He's actually probably the unexposed one in this field. He's only had 4 starts over fences. He actually started out over fences 2 seasons ago, had 1 go and pulled up. So it's kind of second time round for him, but he's jumping really. He got it together last time out, and I think they might have just found the key to him. So, yeah, if he's 5-6 to 1, Lord Baddesley's probably the one for me.
Any other horse you want to talk about length and not tip, or do you have another tip for us for Saturday's Scoop?
I've got a tip for you, Dave.
Lovely, that's what we needed.
Bet of the day.
Oh, here we go. Let me write it down.
Black Poppy in the 325 for Kerry Lee, a horse who won this race last year. Loves Newbury, came back and off a higher mark, ran in between 2 horses that are much higher in the ratings now. Mark of Gold, who's now a 139 horse. Irish Hill, who we saw win the other day, who's now a 134 horse. Black Poppy split them that day off 117. He's only £2 higher now, very lightly raced, not been seen much since. Another horse we've seen a bit of a theme this season, who tried chasing, aborted chasing campaign, back over hurdles, was over 2.5 miles last time, didn't stay the trip, much happier back at 2. The Kerry Lee yard wasn't in form back in December, but she's firing now, lots of winners in 2023, and I think she will have laid this out for this race. So Black Poppy in the 325.
Matt, anything else to throw into the...
Yeah, I'm going back to Kelso. There's a nice novice hurdle, grade 2, 225. Well, Emmett Mullins introduces a promising bumper horse, the Ferronelli. I think they're probably going to try and either maintain his novice status or win a nice pot like this. I think he might improve for the experience. He's quite a big raw horse. I'm going to take him on. I'm taking him on with Ho Jolie Smoke. For the Skeltons. They won this race with My Drogo a couple of years ago, and he's a point winner, shaped really well in his 2 hurdle starts so far. I don't think the drop back to 2 miles helped him last time at Chepstow. Stepping up a little bit in distance, he's really, really promising. He's definitely a horse to note going forward. Hopefully he can get off the mark at the 3rd time of asking.
There you go then. Our thoughts on Saturday's action. We'll be back next Saturday to look into it. I always really enjoy that card at Sandown. We've got the Imperial Cup and the EBF final, and then I think we're back every day the week after for some meeting somewhere in the Cotswolds. So fantastic time of the year. Thanks for watching, and best of luck with your own bets this weekend.